ask you about these election challenges we're seeing. The Arizona Supreme Court's upholding a lower court's ruling that there was no fraud, no misconduct in the election. What's your reaction given your state legislature recently held a hearing where Republicans and witnesses claimed the opposite?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised, quite frankly, by the state Supreme Court's ruling. They're basing it on timelines and not basing it on necessarily anything pertaining to whether there's fraud or not. So I've spoken to the attorney in that case representing the plaintiffs, and they're going to take an appeal now to the United States Supreme Court. They believe that there's evidence of, if not fraud, votes that were miscounted. And they demonstrated that because they were only given 2 days to actually sample some ballots. The first sample 100 with 3% error. Then they sampled another 1,500. They were given authority to do 2,500, but they could only actually get through 1,500. And they found a statistically significant error rate in that batch as well. So hopefully we can continue to see this all options exhausted, but I give my kudos to the legislators in Arizona who are continuing to fight this at that level.
Mm-hmm. I want to get your thoughts on another case as well. Alabama and Louisiana, they are now joining a lawsuit filed by the Texas Attorney General to have the Supreme Court invalidate the election results in 4 key battleground states. The case basically argues that the legislature should have passed election laws to accommodate for the pandemic, and because they didn't, the process was unconstitutional. So would you encourage other states who made similar pandemic-related changes to join that lawsuit?
Yeah, I would. Here's the theory behind that case, Jen. It's that when you diluted and changed wrongfully your laws on how to vote, instead of going through the legislative process, et cetera, what you did is you actually watered down the votes of states that were following their laws to the letter. And so you've manipulated the election laws and you've denigrated the votes of my citizens. I think that's an interesting theory, and I hope all attorneys general will take a good look at that and see if they can support that, because it seems to have some resonance and it's picking up some power and steam as well.
And I want to stick to your state for a little longer. I want to ask you about this. You recently criticized the Arizona governor, saying in a town hall op-ed today, this is a quote from it, "Doug Ducey is hurting the Republican Party's cause." We know that you just want re-election yourself this election cycle, but would you ever, or are you possibly thinking about perhaps pursuing a primary challenge to Governor Ducey in the next election?
Not today, Jen.
Not today. What about the future?
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, look, there are things that he could do now, that he could clarify and help us understand the vote. And also, it wouldn't take much on his part to make sure that we had a forensic audit of the election in Arizona. And that would put the whole issue to bed in Arizona, and that might help to put the issue to bed nationwide. I just think it's so critical, and to in a very overt way certify the election at the same time the hearing is going on, where evidence is being presented of fraud in that election, or that it was not carried out in a way that we would all hope it would be. I thought was just a finger in the eye of Trump, President Trump administration and his supporters, and frankly, all of Arizona's voters.
Interesting. Okay, Congressman, finally, I want to ask you about another topic. It's a big one on the Hill. The House passed the National Defense Authorization Act just yesterday. You and other members of the House Freedom Caucus had expressed support of the president's threat to veto the bill. Explain to our viewers, why do you oppose the legislation, and do you have any sense of whether your fellow Republicans in the Senate will block it?
So I think this bill as is probably going to get up to the president. I think he will veto it. Look, we all want to make sure that our military is adequately funded, but this doesn't really pertain to funding. It pertains to special pay raises to certain groups. We want them to get those pay raises and those bumps. But what they included in here Jen, and what the president's talking about is this is a 4,500-page bill that's filled with so many things that have nothing to do with protecting and preserving the military. Instead, what it does is it tries to curb the commander-in-chief's ability to deploy and return and move troops. That's one of his jobs, and this gets at that and says, no, you can't do it. This does things like social engineering. It gives money to social engineering the Afghan security forces. This actually includes a business regulation that will require all small businesses with fewer than 20 employees to register with the federal government, for Pete's sakes. That has nothing to do with national defense authorization. It has nothing to do with protecting this country and giving our military what they need. And that's what this bill is, chock full of stuff like that. And that's the president's right to veto this. And there's a significant number of us. In fact, even the House Freedom Caucus, of course, but even Kevin McCarthy said, if the president vetoes this, we're going to fight so we do not see an override of that veto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems like that fight will continue on there on the Hill. Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona, thank you so much for joining us today to speak about the election and the challenges happening not only in your state but across the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen. Good to be with you.